The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with beings from 100 different worlds. Some had scales, some had feathers. Some had skin that glowed in colors that human eyes could not even see. They sat in their floating chairs, arranged in a massive circle. And they all looked down at the small group of humans standing in the center. Ambassador Kong Yuna stood perfectly still. She was a small woman with black hair tied back in a neat bun. Her face showed no emotion. Behind her stood 2 soldiers in dark uniforms, their hands folded behind their backs. They did not move. They did not blink. They simply waited. High Counselor Vec leaned forward in his chair. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes that blinked one at a time. He was the leader of the Terran hegemony, the most powerful empire in the galaxy. His people had ruled space for 10,000 years. They had conquered dozens of species. They feared nothing. "You come here to complain?" Vec said. His voice echoed through the hall. "Your colony was destroyed." "Yes, we know. The Terran fleet did this. We do not deny it." Yuna's eyes did not leave Vec's face. "You killed 4,200,000 people, men, women, children. You burned our cities. You poisoned our water. You left nothing alive." A murmur went through the council. Some of the alien delegates shifted in their seats. Others simply watched with curious eyes. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only been traveling between stars for 200 years. They were young. They were weak. They were interesting to watch. Like small animals trying to survive in a forest full of predators, Vec made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Your people built a colony too close to Terran space. We warned you. You did not listen. This is the result." "Those were civilians," Yuna said. Her voice was calm. To calm. Farmers, teachers, doctors, they had no weapons. They posed no threat. "They were in our way," Vec said simply. "The Terran do not explain ourselves to lesser species. You should be grateful we did not destroy more." Observer Rona sat in the upper balcony, watching everything. She was a Melith, a species known for recording history. Her job was to watch and remember. She had seen many moments like this before. Small species came to the council to beg for help. The council always refused. The small species always went away, broken and defeated. But something was different today. Rona could feel it. She had been watching humans for many years now. She had studied their history. She knew things about them that most aliens did not know. And right now, looking at Ambassador Kung Yuna, she felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt afraid. Yuna turned to face the full council. "I asked the Galactic Council for justice. The Terran committed an act of war against Earth. We demand punishment. We demand compensation. We demand that this never happen again." The council members looked at each other. Some of them laughed quietly. Others shook their heads. The idea of punishing the Terran was ridiculous. The Terran had the largest fleet in the galaxy. They had weapons that could crack planets in half. No one punished the Terran. The council speaker, an ancient being with a face like melted wax, raised one hand. "The council has heard your complaint, Ambassador. However, we cannot intervene in matters between a major power and a junior species. The Terran acted within their rights, as defined by galactic law." "Their rights?" Yuna's voice was still calm, but something in it had changed. It was harder now, colder. They have the right to murder children. They have the right to defend their borders," the speaker said. "Your colony was a provocation. The council will take no action." Silence fell over the Great Hall. Every eye was on Yuna. The alien delegates waited for her to cry, or beg, or threaten. They waited for her to do what every other weak species had done before. Yuna did none of those things. She simply nodded once. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She pressed a button and a hologram appeared in the air above her head. It showed the face of Admiral Park Junho, commander of Earth's First Fleet. He was a broad-shouldered man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Admiral Yuna said, "The Council has refused our request for justice." Junho's holographic face showed no surprise. Understood, Ambassador. Then we will seek justice ourselves. The hologram disappeared. Una put the device back in her pocket. She looked up at High Counselor Vec one last time. Made a mistake, she said. You thought we were prey. You thought we were weak. You thought we would come here and beg. She paused. We do not beg. Vec leaned back in his chair. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. What will you do, little human? Send your tiny ships against the Terran fleet? We have 10,000 warships. You have perhaps 300. This is not a war you can win, Una smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that no one else knew. We shall see, she said. She turned and walked out of the great hall. Her 2 soldiers followed behind her. The doors closed with a heavy sound. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Vec laughed loudly, and the other delegates joined him. The idea of humans fighting the Terran was absurd. It was comedy. It was the funniest thing they had heard in years. But up in the balcony, observer Rona did not laugh. She was still watching the door where Una had disappeared. She was thinking about all the things she had learned about humans. Their history of war, their ability to suffer, their refusal to surrender, even when they were losing. Something bad was coming. Rona could feel it in her bones. 3 hours later, a message went out across all of human space. It reached Earth, it reached Mars, it reached the colonies on distant moons and the stations, floating in the darkness between stars. Every human heard the same words. Authorization code, total war. All military personnel report immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Across the galaxy, 400 million humans stopped what they were doing. They put down their tools. They kissed their families goodbye. They reported for duty, the galaxy thought. They were watching a small species die. They were wrong. The days after the council meeting were strange. The Terran hegemony waited for something to happen. They expected angry messages from Earth. They expected small attacks on their border outposts. They expected humans to do something foolish and emotional instead. They got silence. High Counselor Vec sat in his command center on Terran Prime, reading reports from his spy networks. What are the humans doing? He asked his intelligence chief. Nothing, High Counselor, the chief replied. Their civilian broadcasts continue normally. Their trading ships still move between their colonies, but their military channels have gone completely dark. Dark. What do you mean dark? Silent, High Counselor. No signals. No communications. Nothing. It is as if their entire military has simply vanished. Vec made a dismissive sound. They are probably crying in their ships. Humans are emotional creatures. They need time to accept their defeat. But across the galaxy, something very different was happening. On Earth's orbital command station, General Beek Mingy stood before a massive holographic map of human space. She was 60 years old, with short gray hair and a scar that ran down the left side of her face. She had fought in 3 colonial wars. She had never lost. Report, she said. Admiral Park Junho's voice came through the speakers. First Fleet is in position. All ships running silent. No emissions. No signals. The Terran have no idea where we are. Second Fleet. Admiral Wang Sunho's voice answered. Ready and waiting. My crews are hungry for this fight. Ground forces. Sergeant Im Soyan's voice was calm and steady. 47 million soldiers across all divisions. Everyone knows their targets. Everyone knows their jobs. Aminji nodded slowly. Good. Remember, we have one chance at this. The galaxy thinks we are weak. The galaxy thinks we have 300 ships. They do not know about the others. In a hidden shipyard behind Earth's moon, Dr. Choi Nari walked through rows of massive warships. These were not the small patrol vessels that humans showed to alien visitors. These were something else entirely. Battleships with hulls 3 kilometers long. Cruisers carrying weapons that could melt through any armor. Destroyers so fast that enemy sensors could not track them. For 200 years, humanity had been playing a game. They showed the galaxy their trading ships. They showed the galaxy their peaceful colonies. They let the galaxy believe that humans were weak, harmless creatures who posed no threat. It was all a lie. The truth was hidden in shipyards and underground, bunkers across human space. The truth was 3,000 warships that no alien had ever seen. The truth was weapons so terrible that humanity had sworn to never use them unless they had no other choice. Now, they had no other choice. On Mars Colony, Lieutenant Yoon Tae-yeon sat in the cockpit of his fighter. He was 24 years old, with messy black hair and a photograph of his family taped to his control panel. His mother, his father, his little sister. They were all back on Earth, waiting for news. Tae-yeon pulled out a piece of paper and began to write. Dear Mother and Father, if you are reading this, then I did not come home. Please do not be sad. I knew what I was signing up for when I joined the fleet. The Terran killed millions of our people. Someone had to make them pay. I am proud to be that someone. Tell my sister that I love her. Tell her to be brave, and please do not forget me. He folded the letter and put it in his pocket. Then he closed his eyes and waited for the order to launch. Across human space, similar scenes were happening. Soldiers writing final letters. Pilots checking their weapons one more time. Engineers making sure every ship was perfect. No one spoke about fear. No one spoke about death. They simply did their jobs, quietly and efficiently. The way humans had always done when war came. Observer Rona sat in her room on Station Villanine, staring at her data screens. Something was wrong. She could feel it. The humans were too quiet. Their silence was not the silence of defeat. It was the silence of a predator about to strike. She sent a message to the council. Warning. Human behavior does not match expected patterns. Recommend increased surveillance of human military installations. The council ignored her message. They were too busy celebrating the Terran victory. There were parties every night. Alien delegates made jokes about the crying humans. High Counselor Vec gave speeches about Terran superiority. No one listened to Rona. 3 weeks passed. Then 4. The Terran grew bored with waiting. Their spy ships reported nothing unusual. Their border patrols found nothing suspicious. Slowly, the hegemony began to relax. The human threat was over. Life returned to normal. On the morning of the 25th day, General Beekman-Gee stood before her command staff. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with a fire that her officers knew well. It is time, she said. Send the signal. A single word went out across all of human space. It traveled through hidden relay stations and secret communication channels. It reached every ship, every soldier, every pilot waiting in the darkness. The word was, now. And in that moment, 3,000 human warships lit up their engines. 47 million soldiers loaded their weapons. Fighter pilots strapped themselves into their cockpits. The greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen began to move. The Terran did not see them coming. Their sensors detected nothing. Their spy networks reported nothing. One moment, space was empty and quiet. The next moment, it was full of human ships. Observer Rona was the first to see the reports coming in. She stared at her screens in disbelief. Human fleets were appearing at 12 different Terran military installations simultaneously. They were not small raiding parties. They were massive armadas, bristling with weapons that no one had ever seen before. Her hands trembled as she reached for her communication device. Council, she said, her voice shaking. The humans are not crying. The humans are not defeated. The humans have just declared war, and they are winning. Across the galaxy, a single message broadcast on all frequencies. It was Admiral Park Junho's voice, calm and cold as ice. The Terran hegemony and all who watch. You killed our children. You laughed at our grief. You called us weak. Now you will learn the truth. We are humanity, and we do not forgive. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake, and they were about to pay for it. The Terran border station called. Outpost 7 was supposed to be impossible to attack. It had shields that could stop a meteor. It had weapons that could destroy a small moon. It had 500 of the best Terran soldiers guarding it around the clock. Commander Ojuan attacked it anyway. His stealth ship drifted through space without making a sound. No engines. No signals. No heat. Just a dark shape moving slowly through the stars like a ghost. Behind him came 50 more ships just like his, all running silent, all invisible to Terran sensors. Distance to target, 10 kilometers, his pilot whispered. Doyan nodded. Tell the others to prepare. On my signal, we hit them hard and fast. No mercy. The Terran guards on Outpost 7 were drinking hot liquid and complaining about the boring assignment. Nothing ever happened on the border. Humans were too scared to attack. They were probably still crying somewhere. The first explosion killed 30 of them instantly. Doyon's ships appeared out of nowhere, their weapons already firing. Bright beams of energy cut through the station's shields like they were made of paper. The Terrans screamed and ran for their battle stations, but they were too slow. Much too slow, human soldiers poured out of the ships and onto the station. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons spitting fire. They did not hesitate. They did not stop. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. At the same time, similar attacks were happening across Terran space. Admiral Park Jun-ho led the first fleet against the Crimson shipyards. Admiral Wang Sunjo brought the second fleet down on the fortress world of Terran 3. Everywhere the Terran looked, human ships were appearing like demons from the darkness. High Counselor Vec received the news in his private chambers. His hands shook as he read the reports. This is impossible, he said. They only have 300 ships. Our intelligence said 300 ships. His intelligence chief looked at the floor. Our intelligence was wrong. High Counselor, the humans have thousands of ships. They were hiding them. We never saw them. Oh, how did we miss this? They are clever, High Counselor. More clever than we thought. In the skies above Terran 3, pilot Quan Ji-ho pushed his fighter into a spinning dive. 3 Terran fighters were chasing him, their weapons filling the space around him with deadly light. Any other pilot would have been terrified. Ji-ho was smiling. His calcine was ghost because no one could catch him. He had been flying since he was 16 years old. He knew his ship better than he knew his own body. He pulled up hard, flipping his fighter around in a move that should have been impossible. Suddenly, he was behind the Terran fighters instead of in front of them. His finger pressed the trigger, and 1, 2, 3 enemy ships exploded into flames. 3 more down, he reported calmly. Moving to next target. Down on the surface of Terran 3, Sergeant Im Soyan led her squad through the smoking ruins of a military base. Terran soldiers were everywhere, but they were confused and afraid. They had never faced humans in battle before. They had no idea what to do. Contact left. One of Soyan's soldiers shouted. She turned and fired in one smooth motion. The Terran soldier fell without making a sound. Keep moving, she ordered. Our target is the command center. We take that. We take the planet. The aliens who watched the battle from a distance could not believe what they were seeing. Humans were not supposed to fight like this. Humans were supposed to be slow and weak and stupid. But these humans were none of those things. They were fast. They were strong. They were terrifyingly smart. Observer Rona watched the battle reports on her screens. Her tentacles were trembling. In all her years of recording history, she had never seen anything like this. The humans were not just winning. They were destroying the Terran with a skill and precision that seemed almost impossible. They adapt, she whispered to herself. Look at them. Every time the Terran try a new tactic, the humans change to counter it. They learn in real time. They evolve during the battle itself. On Station Villanin, the Galactic Council was in chaos. Delegates were screaming at each other. Some were demanding that the Council help the Terran. Others were demanding that the Council stay out of it. A few were quietly sending messages to their home worlds, warning them to stay far away from human space. Counselor Tyrese, a neutral delegate from a small species, watched everything with growing fear. This changes everything, he said to no one in particular. If humans can defeat the Terran, they can defeat anyone. The balance of power in the galaxy is about to shift. Back on the battlefield, Admiral Park Jun-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the destruction unfold. His face was calm, but inside he felt no joy. War was never something to celebrate. It was something to finish as quickly as possible. Admiral, his communications officer, said, "The Crimson shipyards have fallen. Terran 3 is surrendering. 6 star systems are now under human control." Out. Jun-ho nodded slowly. "How long has it been?" 72 hours, sir. 72 hours? In 3 days, humanity had done more damage to the Terran hegemony than any species had done in 10,000 years. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. Far away on Terran Prime, High Counselor Vex stared at the map of his empire. Red markers showed where human forces had attacked. There were so many red markers. Too many. "What are they?" he whispered, his voice filled with horror. "What are these creatures?" His advisor had no answer. The humans kept coming. They did not stop to rest. They did not stop to celebrate their victories. They simply moved forward, system after system, planet after planet, pushing deeper and deeper into Terran space, and the galaxy watched in silence. Realizing a terrible truth, they had underestimated humanity. They had made a mistake that could never be taken. Back now, they could only watch and pray that humans would never turn their anger toward them. The message from the Terran hegemony arrived on Admiral Park Jun-ho's ship at exactly midnight. It was a request for peace talks. High Counselor Vex wanted to negotiate an end to the war. Junho read the message carefully. Then he wrote a simple reply: "We will accept nothing less than complete surrender." Vex's response came back within the hour. He offered to pay money. He offered to return territory. He offered to apologize publicly for the attack on Kepler-2b. Junho's second reply was even shorter: "You killed our children. There is nothing you can offer us. Surrender completely, or we will continue until there is nothing left of your empire." The peace talks ended. Across the galaxy, beings from 100 different species watched the news with growing fear. The humans were not behaving like any species they had ever seen. Most species fought for land or resources or power. When they won battles, they negotiated peace and took what they could get. Humans were different. They were not fighting for land. They were not fighting for resources. They were fighting for revenge. Pure, cold, terrible revenge. And they would not stop until they had it. Admiral Wang Song-ho led the Second Fleet deeper into Terran space. His ships moved like wolves hunting their prey. Every day, they captured another military base. Every day, they destroyed more enemy ships. Every day, they pushed closer to Terran Prime itself. Brol, his tactical officer, reported. The Terran are pulling their remaining forces back to defend their homeworld. They are abandoning their outer territories. Junho smiled grimly. "Good. Let them gather together. It will make the final battle easier." On one of the captured Terran worlds, medic Shin Yunji walked through a field hospital filled with wounded aliens. She was tired. She had not slept in 2 days. But she kept working, moving from patient to patient, treating their injuries and easing their pain. A young Terran soldier looked up at her with fear in his eyes. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. "I am your enemy." Yunji checked his bandages before answering. "You are wounded. You are no longer fighting. That makes you a patient, not an enemy. But we killed your people. We destroyed your colony. Your leaders gave those orders. Not you." She patted his arm gently. "Rest now. You will heal." The Terran soldier closed his eyes, confused but grateful. He had been taught that humans were savage creatures with no honor. But this human woman had just saved his life. Nothing made sense anymore. Across the galaxy, stories like this began to spread. Humans destroyed military targets with brutal efficiency, but they protected civilians. They treated wounded enemies with respect. They did not torture prisoners or commit atrocities. Observer Rona compiled these stories into her historical record. "They are a contradiction," she wrote. They fight with the fury of wild beasts, but they show mercy like saints. They destroy armies, but they rebuild cities. I do not understand them. I am not sure anyone can understand them. But I know this: they are not monsters. They are something far more complex and far more dangerous. On Station Velanine, Counselor Taris called an emergency meeting of the neutral powers. Dozens of species attended, all of them afraid, all of them unsure what to do. "We must decide our position," Taris said. "The Terran are losing. Soon, humanity will control the largest military force in the galaxy. We need to decide, are we with them or against them?" An insect-like delegate raised a claw. "The humans have done nothing to threaten us. Perhaps we should simply stay out of their way." "For now," another delegate replied. "But what about later? What happens when they finish with the Terran? Will they come for us next?" Tari shook his head slowly. "I do not think so. The humans are not conquerors. They did not start this war. The Terran attacked them first. All the humans want is justice. And if we had attacked them instead, would they show us the same fury?" No one had an answer for that question, but everyone knew the truth. If any of them had done what the Terran did, the humans would be coming for them too. One by one, the neutral powers made their decisions. Most chose to stay out of the war completely. A few quietly sent messages to Earth, expressing sympathy and offering future friendship. None dared to help the Terran. The hegemony was alone. Back on Earth, Ambassador Kong Yuna gave a speech that was broadcast across the galaxy. She stood in front of a memorial wall covered with photographs. 4,200,000 faces. Men, women, children, the dead of Kepler-2 to be. "We did not want this war," she said, her voice steady but heavy with grief. "We came to the galaxy in peace. We built colonies. We traded with our neighbors. We harmed no one." She paused, looking at the photographs. "Then the Terran came. They killed our families. They burned our homes. They laughed at our pain." Her eyes hardened.
Ow.
"So now we fight. Not because we enjoy war. Not because we want power. We fight because there must be justice. We fight because the dead deserve to be remembered. We fight because if we do not, then our children died for nothing." The speech ended. Across the galaxy, beings of every species sat in silence. Some felt fear. Some felt respect. Some felt both. On Terran Prime, High Counselor Vec watched the speech with empty eyes. His empire was crumbling. His fleets were destroyed. His people were losing hope. "Gather every ship we have left," he ordered. "Every soldier. Every weapon. We will make our final stand at the homeworld. If humanity wants our surrender, they will have to take it from us." The Terran Defense Fleet assembled in orbit around their planet. 3,000 ships, the last remnants of their once great navy, they formed a wall of metal and fire, determined to protect their home or die trying. And in the darkness beyond the system's edge, the combined human armada waited. 5,000 ships from every fleet, every colony, every corner of human space. The largest military force ever assembled in galactic history, Admiral Park Junho stood on his bridge. Looking at the tactical display, this was it. The final battle. The moment that would decide everything. "All ships," he said quietly, "prepare to jump." The stars around the human fleet began to twist and bend as thousands of engines powered up together. The Battle of Terran Prime was about to begin. The sky above. Terran Prime turned white. Thousands of human ships dropped out of faster than light. Travel at exactly the same moment. They appeared in perfect formation, their weapons already charging, their shields already raised. The Terran Defense Fleet had never seen anything like it. Admiral Park Junho spoke one word: "Begin." The Battle of Terran Prime started with the loudest sound the galaxy had ever heard. 10,000 weapons fired at once. Ships exploded. Shields shattered. The darkness of space became bright as a sun. Captain Lee Hanna stood at the tactical station of the flagship, her fingers dancing across the controls. She had spent weeks studying Terran battle tactics. She knew how they thought. She knew how they fought. And she knew exactly how to beat them. "Admiral," she said, "the Terran fleet is grouping together for a defensive wall. If we split our forces into 3 groups and attack from different angles, we can force them apart." Junho nodded. "Do it." Hannah sent the orders. The human fleet divided like a river splitting around a rock. 3 massive groups of ships swung around the Terran position, hitting them from the front, the left, and the right at the same time. The Terran commanders tried to respond, but they were too slow. Every time they turned to face one attack, another hit them from behind. Their defensive wall broke apart. Their ships began to scatter. Chaos spread through their ranks. Lieutenant Yun Tae-yun flew his fighter through the heart of the battle. Enemy fire flashed past his cockpit every second. His hands moved automatically, dodging, weaving, firing. He had never felt more alive. Ahead of him, a massive Terran dreadnought was turning toward the human flagship. Its main weapon was charging. If it fired, it could destroy Admiral Junho's ship in one shot. Tae-yun pushed his throttle forward. "Ghost to command," he said into his radio. "I see the dreadnought. I'm going in." "Negative, Ghost," the reply came back. "That ship is too heavily armored. Your weapons won't get through." Tae-yun smiled sadly. He thought about the letter in his pocket. He thought about his mother's face. He thought about his little sister. "I know," he said, "but my ship will." He pointed his fighter at the dreadnought's main reactor and accelerated to maximum speed. The Terran gunners saw him coming and tried to shoot him down, but he was too fast. He was a ghost. No one could catch him. The impact created an explosion that could be seen from the planet below. The dreadnought's reactor went critical and tore the massive ship apart from the inside. When the light faded, nothing was left but floating debris. Lieutenant Yun Tae-yun was gone. But he had saved his admiral. He had saved his fleet. He had made his sacrifice count. On the surface of Terran Prime, Sergeant Im Soyeon led her squad toward the government palace. High Counselor Vec was inside, surrounded by his personal guards. Her orders were simple. Capture him alive. The palace doors exploded inward. Soyeon and her soldiers poured through the smoke, their weapons raised. Terran guards rushed to stop them, but they were outmatched. Human training was superior. Human determination was unstoppable. Soyeon found Vec in his throne room. He was sitting alone, his 4 eyes staring at nothing. His guards lay unconscious on the floor around him. "High Counselor Vec," she said, her weapon pointed at his chest. "You are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Will you surrender, or will you make this difficult?" Vec looked at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he raised his hands. "I surrender," he whispered. "It is over." Above the planet, the battle was ending. Terran ships were surrendering everywhere. Their commanders broadcast messages of defeat on all channels. The one's mighty hegemony had fallen. Admiral Park Junho stood on his bridge, watching the last enemy ships lower their weapons. His face was tired but calm. Around him, his crew was cheering, hugging each other, crying with relief. He thought about Lieutenant Yun Tae-yun. He thought about all the soldiers who had died. Victory had come, but the cost was high. It was always high. "Communications," he said quietly. "Open a channel to all ships, ours and theirs." The channel opened. Junho spoke to the entire battlefield. "This is Admiral Park Junho of the United Earth Fleet. The Terran hegemony has surrendered. The war is over. All human forces will cease fire immediately. All Terran forces will power down their weapons. Any ship that needs medical assistance will receive it. Any crew that surrenders will be treated with respect." He paused. "We did not fight this war because we enjoyed killing. We fought because we had no other choice. Now that the fighting is done, let us remember why we came here. We came for justice. Not for revenge. Not for cruelty. Justice." The channel closed. Across the battlefield, human ships began rescue operations. They picked up Terran survivors floating in space. They sent medical teams to damaged enemy vessels. They did everything they could to save lives, even the lives of those who had tried to kill them. 1 month later, a trial was held on Station Villanine. Counselor Vec and his military commanders faced judgment for the destruction of Kepler-2b. The entire galaxy watched as evidence was presented: recordings, testimonies, proof of what the Terran had done. The verdict was guilty. The commanders were sentenced to prison for the rest of their lives. Vec was stripped of his title and his power. The Terran hegemony was forced to pay for the rebuilding of Kepler-22b and to sign treaties promising they would never attack civilians again. It was justice. Real justice. Not revenge. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, a new seat was installed. It was larger than the others, placed in a position of honor. Ambassador Kang Yuna sat in it for the first time, representing humanity as a senior member of the council. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. She simply nodded to the other delegates and began the work of building peace. Observer. Rona published her historical account of the war. It became the most read document in galactic history. Species across the stars studied it, trying to understand what humans were and why they had proven so dangerous. The final passage of her account became famous. I was asked by a Terran child what humans are. I told her the truth, as best as I understand it. Humans are beings of contradiction. They love peace, but they are masters of war. They show kindness to strangers, but they destroy anyone who harms their loved ones. They forgive easily, but they never forget. The galaxy made a mistake. We saw humans building farms and schools and hospitals. We thought this meant they were weak. We were fools. The farms and schools and hospitals are what humans build when they are happy. When they are angry, they build armies. If I have one message for the species of the galaxy, it is this: do not make humans angry. Be their friend. Trade with them. Laugh with them. Let them build their farms and their schools in peace. Because if you hurt them, if you kill their children, if you give them reason to hate you, they will come for you. And nothing in the universe will stop them until justice is done. Back on Earth, General Beekminji ordered the hidden weapons sealed away again. The shipyards went dark. The secret fleets returned to their hiding places. Humanity put away its tools of war and returned to its tools of peace. On the rebuilt colony of Kepler-2b, a memorial stood in the center of the new city. 4,200,000 names were carved into its walls. Visitors from every species came to read the names and to remember what had been lost. And standing before the memorial, an old woman held flowers in her trembling hands. She was Lieutenant Yoon Taeyeon's mother. She had come to say goodbye to her son, whose name was now carved among the heroes. "You saved them," she whispered through her tears. "You saved everyone. I am so proud of you." Above her, the stars shone, bright and peaceful. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity could finally rest, at least until the next time someone forgot what humans were capable of.